Welcome to episode 14 of season 3 of the Gospelovergimmicks podcast. Today we're going to talk about slavery in the Bible. Let's get after it. Hello and welcome, my Bible-believing brothers and sisters, and those yet to be washed in the blood. This is the Gospelovergimmicks podcast. I am your host, Richard Stormer Norman, here to tell you everything I know and some things I highly suspect. Today, we're going to talk about an age-old argument made by atheists when they are attempting to make Christianity look bad. They say, the Bible advocates for slavery. Is that true? Well, of course it's not. And we'll see why in just a minute. But first, how y'all doing? How are y'all doing? I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I'm not going to bore you with the weather because it's been what it is. Been typical Florida spring weather. Highs in the 70s. Kind of chilly in the morning. So on and so forth. But I thought about this, and I mentioned, I don't know if it was last week or the week before. Might have been last week. I mentioned about the spring revival at my church. It starts the day after Easter, or Resurrection Sunday, whichever one you prefer. I said there wouldn't be an episode because, I always take a week off. I always take a week off when it's revival at church because obviously revival is to be revived, and I can't be revived if I'm busy, doing other stuff. So I said there wasn't going to be an episode, but then I thought about it. The way I've got the schedule set up now is where I release episodes on Monday now instead of Saturday. So there will be an episode on that Monday because I'll already have it finished by that time. So I'll already have it finished, and then by the time revival gets finished on Wednesday, I can. Now the Monday following revival is probably not going to be anything like deep or groundbreaking or anything like that. In fact, I might just take one of the sermons from the preacher we got coming, Brother Stacy Percy. I might just take one of his sermons and use it as the podcast episode, but we'll see. I've never heard him preach before, so we'll see how that works out. But regardless, the Monday after revival, a week later, it's not going to be anything spectacular, but we're going to put something out. Don't forget the Bible giveaway contest for April is going on. If you are on Facebook, the video is pinned to the top of the page. All I did was kind of cut out that part from the episode and put it on Facebook. So if you don't have a Facebook, then go back and watch last week's episode, which was episode 13, and you can see how to get in on the Bible giveaway contest. I can't stress how important it is that you follow the directions. The people on Facebook know how I harp on that all the time about following directions. If you're on Facebook, you gotta like the Facebook page and then answer the question in the comments that I asked in the video. If you're on YouTube, you gotta subscribe to the YouTube channel and then comment the answer to the question in the comments there. So that's two ways you can go about doing it, either on YouTube or Facebook. I only do one. Putting y'all on the honor system here. I think we got 3 people already that have entered the contest, so that's a good start. And we'll pick a winner on the April 15th episode, which happens to be my little sister's birthday and my youngest nephew. So that's all I got for that opening segment. Let's go ahead and jump into the main topic and talk about slavery in the Bible. So have you ever heard the argument from atheists, or maybe even an uneducated Christian, because we got plenty of those running around these days, that the Bible condones slavery? Have you ever heard that argument? Because I have. Not often, but I've heard it. The problem most people run into when discussing biblical slavery is that the only idea they have of slavery is chattel slavery, which was, this was the form of slavery we saw in the 19th century and earlier, and maybe even in the 20th, that involved people being captured against their will and bought and sold as someone's actual property. You watch movies about the Civil War, or I guess movies still come out about slavery. 12 Years a Slave, that wasn't that long ago. And you see people from Africa getting taken from Africa and brought over here, put in chains, forced to work in fields and whatnot, and do labor. And that is the only idea that our generation has of slavery, but yet that is not even remotely close to what the Bible is describing when it talks about it. Slavery and polygamy, two things that are mentioned in the Bible. However, just because something is mentioned in the Bible, that doesn't mean God's for it. So we read stories about Solomon having all these wives, David having all these wives. That doesn't mean God was for it. But if you're going to do something, God's like, well, you're going to do it, so I might as well put some rules on it. So the fact that slavery existed, slavery has existed alone, like way back in the beginning. It probably wasn't long after the garden that slavery came to be. So God's like, well, if this is going to exist, I'm going to put these rules on it of how you're supposed to treat slaves. And if you really think about these rules, these laws that God puts on it, it makes it incredibly difficult to even, have a servant, which is basically what the slavery thing is in the Bible. People look at it and go, oh, slavery, but really that word, the meaning of that word doesn't mean the same thing as we take it to mean. The slavery mentioned in the Bible, like I said, is not even remotely similar to child slavery. In fact, when you examine the Hebrew words being translated for slave, it actually more closely resembles a servant, or if you want to put it in a more modern term, an employee. Slavery, or more accurately, servanthood, it was a choice. It was a choice someone made. That wasn't forced on them. Even POWs had a choice, as we're going to find out later on. I guess I'll use this Bible since it's the closest one. My revered blackface from R.L. Allen, in case anybody is wondering. Exodus chapter 21. Should have left it open because I was just there. 21:16. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. So slavery as we know it, up here in the 21st century, involves taking people against their will and putting them into bondage. Now, does this verse seem to permit that? It says if you steal a man and sell him, death penalty. You're going to be killed. So according to this law that God gave to the people, all the people who captured natives from Africa back in the day and other countries to make them slaves, what would have happened to those people? They would have been executed because that was against God's law. Also, let's consider Exodus 21:20. And if a man smite his servant or his maid with a rod, and he die under his hand, he shall be surely punished. So what does that tell us? If you beat your servant and they die, you're in trouble. Are you not? You're in trouble. So you might be thinking to yourself, so I guess it's okay if you beat them as long as they don't die. Look at verse 26 through 27. And if a man smite the eye of his servant, or the eye of his maid, that it perish, he shall let them go free for his eye's sake. And if he smite out his manservant's tooth, or his maidservant's tooth, he shall let him go free for his tooth's sake. So, if you injured your servant in any way, smiting them, beating them, if you injured your servant, they automatically got free. They were let go. You had to automatically let them go. So, let's consider this. If you beat your servant and they die, you get the death penalty. If you beat your servant to the point where they get injured, they automatically get let go. So what does this tell us? Don't beat your servant. Don't beat them. Like I said, these laws God put down make it incredibly difficult for the slavery that we think of, the chattel slavery that we think of, to exist to begin with. It makes that virtually impossible. This type of servanthood in the Bible was a means of escaping debt. Leviticus 25:39. And if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, and be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bondservant. Bondservant's a completely different thing we'll get to in a minute. So, in order to avoid a life of homelessness and begging, the Jews were permitted to sell themselves to someone as a servant. By doing so, they would work for the so-called master, and in return the master would provide food, clothing, shelter, and take care of their medical needs. So instead of being homeless on the street and begging for food and trying to get by, you could sell yourself to someone as a servant and work for them like an employee. But instead of getting a paycheck, you get room and board, you get food, medical care taken care of, you get taken care of. So you see how that employee relationship seems to match up with that more so than the whole slavery thing that we think of. These verses also make it evident that no Jew could own another Jew. If you look in the next verse, which we're about to. It wasn't a permanent solution. If you look there where it says, verse 40, yeah, that's where we're going. But as a hired servant and as a sojourner he shall be with thee. A hired servant, not a bondservant. Where are we at? Verse 40. But as a hired servant and as a sojourner he shall be with thee, and shall serve thee unto the year of Jubilee. So this form of slavery wasn't even permanent. Wasn't even a lifelong thing. The year of Jubilee was every 7th year in the Bible, if you want to go look that up and do a study on it. The year of Jubilee was every 7th year. And in the 7th year, your debt was forgiven, and if you were a slave, you were let go. And there's other things that were involved. We won't get into them. But there's a whole lot of things that went on during the 7th year. So basically, you served for 6 years. And then on the 7th year, you were let go. No matter how much you owed. Maybe you owed $5. Maybe you owed $10 million. 7th year, you were let go. Your debt was forgiven. Now, if they were happy living as a servant, they're being taken, all they got to do is work. Who knows what their job is? Maybe it ain't the most incredibly difficult job. And they got a place to live. They got food. And then when the year of Jubilee comes, okay, we're going to let you go. And you're like, you know what, I kind of like to stay here. I kind of like this setup we got going on here. There's a permission for that too. Deuteronomy 15. And it shall be, if he say unto thee, I will not go away from thee, because he loveth thee and thine house, because he is well with thee, then thou shalt take an awl, and thrust it through his ear unto the door, and he shall be thy servant forever, and also unto thy maidservant shall thou do likewise. So if he was digging it, pretty good setup, then he could go from being that indentured servant that he was to being a full-on bondservant. If this was the case, it would seem that life as a servant wasn't as bad as we think. Like I said, it's more like being an employee. And after 6 years, your employer has to fire you because that's the law. But if you wanted to, you could become a bondservant for them and be with them for the rest of your life. Nothing even remotely close to chattel slavery that we think of that took place, back during the 1800s and even further back than that, but recent memory being the 1800s. Now, as far as prisoners of war were concerned, you might think it wasn't very good to force them into bondage, but consider the fact that at this time in history, the most common practice was that if you captured somebody in war, you killed them. You killed them. That was what everybody did, Like I said, slavery was something that existed, and God was just trying to make it more humane. Not that he condones it. It seems like a better option to become a slave, or more accurately, a bondservant where you could be cared for, than to be put to death. If someone captured you in war, and they're like, we're going to kill you. We ain't got no use for you, or we're going to kill you. What about if someone captured you in war and they're like, we're going to kill you, or you can come be our servant, and for life, and your kids will be our servants, and my kid is going to be your master after I'm gone, and but we're going to take care of you. You're not going to be hungry. You don't have to work, but we'll take care of you. I'm sure that beats death any day of the week. Now that's all I got, but I wish I could have gone in more detail, but just didn't have the time to really dig into some things. But the laws God laid down for slavery does not mean he condones it. It's just like, well, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it this way, rather than not doing anything and all kind of nonsense happen. The law God put down on slavery was burdensome, as we read about, so it might be a better deal for you just not to do it to begin with. He made it to where it was so difficult that it might be better off if you just didn't do it at all. But if you're going to do it, you're going to do it the right way. So that's all I got on that. The Bible doesn't really condone slavery. Just because something's in the Bible don't mean God's for it. Okay. Maybe someday we'll do another episode on this, because like I said, I didn't get to touch on everything I really wanted to talk about, because I got to look at that, and I was like, hey, I ain't got time to put all this in here. So maybe we'll do it again someday, but that's all I got for you today. I hope it helped you a little bit. Don't forget, look for us on Facebook, facebook.com/gospelovergimmicks, and you can get in on the Bible study there, or the Bible giveaway there, or YouTube, whichever one you choose. And you can also catch the audio part of the podcast or the video part, because I post them both on there, and sometimes I post a good meme or quote or something every now and then. Twitter at GXG_ministries on Twitter, if you so care to follow us on Twitter. I think I only got like a dozen people following me on there, but I got one. I just figured, every other podcast has a Twitter. I should have a Twitter too. But when I upload the episode to Spreaker, it automatically puts it on Twitter and the Facebook page, So there's that. Instagram at gospelovergimmicks on Instagram. And only thing I do on Instagram, I wish I'd post more things on Instagram, but I don't, because I don't think about it. But on Instagram, I post update during the week of what's going to be on the next week's episode, because I'm not that well organized to where I know. I don't have it planned out weeks in advance. I just kind of, once I upload the video on Monday and the audio, once it gets up on Monday, then I start thinking, what am I going to do next week? And like I said, I got a list of topics I want to cover, but I got to see which one I want to get in on. I don't always. Maybe if I was more organized, it'd be good, but I ain't. Email, if you need to email me, you got a question about something, you got an idea for an episode you'd like to see me do in the future. And I haven't forgot about Bible believing Christian, who suggested I do a series on dispensationalism, and I'm still looking at if I can do that this season, because I like to do one episode per dispensation and break it down that way. But I might end up doing that in season 4, which starts in August. But I haven't forgot about that, just so you know. But anyway, if you got an idea for a show, or you want to learn more about how to get saved, gospelovergimmicks@gmail.com is the way to do that. And if you would like to help support the ministry, cover the expenses of running a podcast and ministry in general, you can do that at patreon.com/gospelovergimmicks. You can donate like $1 a month. You can donate a one-time donation if you want to, or you can become a monthly supporter like Joanna Garrett and Roger Waters. So you can do that if you want to, or you cannot. If you don't, no hard feelings. I understand. But patreon.com/gospelovergimmicks if you want to do that. And that's all I got for you today. Pretty short episode, ain't it? That's probably good considering last week's episode was like an hour. I'll cut y'all off early this week since y'all had to put up with me so long last week. But I appreciate you listening. And until next time, take up your cross, carry on. Oh, I feel like traveling on.